Flight 307 to New York was ready for takeoff. The airport was busy, with people rushing around, boarding, and checking their phones. First-class passengers were already seated. The cabin crew smiled politely, serving drinks and helping with bags. Then, a woman entered the plane. She looked calm. She didn't wear fancy clothes. No designer bag, no shiny shoes. Just a plain white shirt, black pants, and sneakers. Her skin was dark. Her hair was tied back in a simple bun. She didn't say much. She just smiled gently and walked toward first class. She carried only a small black handbag, no suitcase, no laptop. Some people stared. Some ignored her. But one person didn't like it at all. Monica, the head flight attendant, watched the woman carefully. She narrowed her eyes. Something didn't feel right to her, not because of what the woman did, but simply because of how she looked. The woman quietly sat down in seat 1A, a window seat in first class. She put her bag under the seat and folded her hands. Monica walked over quickly. "Excuse me," she said with a tight smile. "Are you sure you're in the right seat?" The woman looked up, still calm. "Yes, 1A." Monica forced a laugh. "Okay. Can I please see your ticket?" The woman didn't get angry. She didn't look shocked. She simply opened her bag and handed over her boarding pass. Monica looked at it. It clearly said first class, seat 1A. Still, Monica didn't believe it. She looked at the woman again, from head to toe. "Where did you get this ticket?" The woman replied softly, "I bought it." Monica didn't like her tone. It wasn't rude, but it wasn't afraid either. "You wait right here," Monica snapped, and walked toward the phone near the galley. She whispered something quickly. A few moments later, a security officer stepped onto the plane. Passengers turned their heads. Some took out their phones. Others looked uncomfortable. Monica pointed to the woman in 1A. "This passenger is in the wrong seat." The officer walked up. "Ma'am, may I ask your name?" The woman didn't move. "Maya Jackson." The officer checked her ticket. He looked confused. Everything was correct. He looked at Monica. "She's in the right seat." Monica frowned. "But look at her." The officer gave her a sharp look. "That's not a reason, ma'am." The woman stood up slowly. Her voice was still soft. "It's okay. Let them believe what they want." She looked at Monica and said only one thing. "You'll regret this." She sat back down. The plane grew quiet. Nobody spoke. Nobody laughed. In row 4, a young man in business class opened his phone. He stared at the woman and typed a message. "I think I just saw her on this flight." Meanwhile, Monica walked back to the galley, angry but confused. She couldn't understand why the woman didn't argue. Why didn't she shout? Why didn't she cry? Monica whispered to another flight attendant, "Did you see that? She's trying to act rich. People like her don't fly first class." The other attendant didn't respond. Back in 1A, Maya sat calmly. She looked out the window as the plane started to move. Her phone buzzed. A single message popped up. "We are watching. Proceed as planned." She smiled faintly. The story was just beginning. The plane was in the air now, steady and calm. Passengers relaxed in their seats while the flight attendants moved up and down the aisle. But things didn't feel calm for everyone. Monica, the head flight attendant, kept glancing at Maya in seat 1A. Her mind was restless. Something about the woman bothered her. Her calmness, her silence, the way she didn't argue even after being humiliated. Monica whispered to her coworker, Sarah, as they prepared drinks in the galley. "She doesn't belong here," Monica said, shaking her head. "People like her always try to sneak into first class. It's not fair to the others who actually pay for it." Sarah looked uncomfortable, but her ticket was correct. "Maybe she's just quiet." Monica rolled her eyes. "Or maybe it's a mistake. I'll keep an eye on her." While Monica complained, Maya sat quietly by the window. Her eyes looked out at the clouds, but her thoughts were somewhere else. A few rows behind her, in business class, the young man who had recognized her earlier was still staring. His name was David. He worked in finance and read business news every day. That's where he had seen Maya's face before. Why would she be here without security? He wondered. David sent another message on his phone. I'm on flight 307. I'm 90% sure Maya Jackson is sitting up front. A reply came quickly. The CEO of Skyjet. Are you serious? David glanced at Maya again. She didn't look like the owner of a luxury airline. No fancy jewelry, no bodyguards, just peace in her eyes. Meanwhile, Monica poured drinks for first-class passengers. When she reached Maya, she purposely skipped her. Maya noticed but said nothing. Later, Monica returned with a tray of orange juice and coffee. As she passed Maya's seat, a sudden bump of turbulence shook the plane slightly. The tray dipped, and a glass of juice slipped, spilling all over Maya's small black handbag. Gasps came from nearby passengers. "Oh no," Sarah said, rushing forward with napkins. But Monica didn't apologize. Instead, she looked down at Maya's soaked bag and simply said, "Maybe you should keep your things under the seat next time." Sarah's face turned pale at Monica's cold words. She tried to help clean the mess, but Maya gently waved her off. "It's fine," Maya said softly, wiping the bag herself. Her calmness remained unshaken, almost as if she had expected this. While wiping her bag, Maya pulled out her phone and typed one message. "Activate protocol." She slipped the phone back into her bag without showing emotion. Sarah, still standing nearby, felt uneasy. She had never seen a passenger stay so calm after being treated so badly. Something about Maya's quiet strength didn't seem ordinary. Sarah leaned toward Monica later. "You should apologize. That spill was your fault." Monica scoffed. "For what? It was just juice. If she can afford first class, she can afford a dry cleaning bill." Sarah stayed quiet, but her eyes drifted back to Maya. A strange feeling settled inside her chest, like something big was about to happen. In business class, David's phone buzzed again with a reply. If that's really her, the flight crew has no idea who they're dealing with. David looked ahead, watching Monica move through first class with confidence, unaware of what she had just done. The clouds outside seemed peaceful, but inside the cabin, tension quietly grew. Everyone thought it was just another flight. But soon, they would realize this wasn't just any passenger, and this wasn't just any plane. The real story was only beginning to unfold. The plane was halfway to New York. Everything looked normal from the outside. But inside, quiet tension filled the air. Flight attendant Sarah couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. Maya was calm, but her eyes held something powerful. It wasn't anger. It was something deeper, like a secret waiting to be revealed. Back in business class, David was busy on his phone. He zoomed in on a photo of Maya from a news article. Maya Jackson, founder and CEO of Skyjet Airlines. He looked at her again in seat 1A, same face, same eyes, same calm expression. "It's her," he whispered to himself. David quickly opened the airline's in-flight staff directory through the app on his phone. He searched the passenger list. There it was. Name, Maya Jackson. Seat, 1. As status, owner/VIP access. His eyes widened. "Oh my God," he said under his breath. He pressed the call button. A few seconds later, a junior flight attendant named Jake walked over. "Yes, sir." David leaned closer and whispered, "Do you know who's sitting in 1A? Jake shook his head. "No, why?" David pointed at his phone. "She owns the airline." Jake stared at the screen. His face turned pale. "You're kidding." "No, that's Maya Jackson. Google her if you don't believe me." Jake stepped back, nervous. I need to tell someone." He walked quickly toward the galley, holding his tablet. Monica was standing there, sipping water, still annoyed from earlier. Jake cleared his throat. "Monica, I think we have a problem. Monica raised her eyebrow. What now? Jake showed her the passenger list and pointed to the name. Maya Jackson. She's the owner of this airline. She's sitting in 1A. Monica laughed. That can't be her. The owner wouldn't travel like that. Jake shook his head. But it is her. A passenger recognized her. I checked the manifest. She has full VIP status. Monica's face turned red. Her hands trembled slightly. But she looked so. Jake interrupted gently. So what, Monica? Monica had no answer. A moment later, the captain's voice came over the intercom, but instead of an announcement for the passengers, it was a private call to the crew. Flight crew, please report to the cockpit. Now. Monica rushed to the front. Sarah and Jake followed. Inside the cockpit, the captain looked serious. He pointed to his screen, where a secure message had arrived from Skyjet headquarters. CEO Maya Jackson is on board Flight 307. Ensure VIP treatment. All incidents involving her will be reviewed upon landing. Monica froze. Sarah whispered, She is Maya Jackson. The captain looked at Monica. Tell me exactly what happened. Monica stuttered, trying to explain. She didn't look like a VIP. She was quiet. I thought maybe she was in the wrong seat. The captain's voice was sharp. So you called security on the owner of the plane. Monica lowered her eyes. I didn't know. The captain stood up. She didn't need to look like a billionaire. She owns the sky you're flying in. Sarah turned to Monica, her voice calm but firm. You didn't see a wrong passenger, Monica. You saw her skin. That's what you judge. Silence filled the cockpit. Back in first class, Maya remained still, reading a book. But she knew everything. She had received the HQ alert too. Her phone buzzed quietly. New message. Captain and crew now informed. Observation continues. She smiled softly. Not a smile of revenge, but of quiet power. Maya had stayed silent long enough. But the time to speak was coming soon. And when she did, the entire plane would listen. The sky outside was clear. No clouds, no thunder, no signs of trouble. But inside Flight 307, a silent storm was building. In Seat 1A, Maya Jackson sat quietly. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't ask for attention. But everyone who looked her way could feel it. Something was coming. Monica tried to act normal. She passed through first class, pretending to serve drinks, but her hands were shaking. Her smile was fake now. Her eyes kept darting toward Maya. Every second felt heavier than the last. In the galley, Monica pulled aside Sarah. Has she said anything? Monica whispered. Sarah shook her head. No, not a word since the spill. Just quiet. Monica frowned. Do you think she's going to report me? Sarah stared at her. You humiliated her. You called security. You spilled juice on her. What do you think? Monica didn't reply. The pilot steps in. Then came the sound that turned every head in first class. Footsteps. The cabin door opened. Captain Harris, a senior pilot, walked out of the cockpit. That almost never happened mid-flight. Everyone in first class looked up. He walked directly to Maya's seat. Miss Jackson, he said gently, nodding his head with respect. Monica stood frozen. Her heart dropped. Maya closed her book and looked up. Captain Harris. On behalf of the entire crew, the captain said softly, I want to personally welcome you aboard and offer my full apology for any inconvenience caused earlier. His voice was kind, professional, but Monica knew who that message was really for. Maya gave a small smile. Thank you, Captain. You're very kind. The captain nodded and turned to leave, but not before his eyes met Monica's. No words were spoken, but the message was loud and clear. Change in air. After that, everything changed. Lisa and Jake suddenly became very active around Maya, offering her drinks, snacks, anything she might want. But Maya politely refused everything. She didn't need their attention now. She had made her presence known in silence. In business class, David was still watching. He had already drafted the title for his next article in his mind. The Billionaire in Seat 1A, when quiet power speaks louder than wealth. But he didn't post anything yet. Something told him the real story hadn't started yet. Monica's breakdown. Back in the galley, Monica sat alone on the little fold-down seat, breathing hard. Her hands trembled. "What if she files a report?" she said aloud. Jake, walking by, replied without looking at her. "It's not if, Monica. It's when." Monica's throat tightened. She grabbed her phone and opened the Skyjet employee app, checking her profile. Then she noticed something she hadn't seen before. Flagged, under review by corporate. She dropped the phone in her lap. Panic rose in her chest. A quiet call. Maya reached into her bag and pulled out a small earpiece. She pressed a button. A voice answered. "Ma'am, all internal systems are watching the flight. Security footage has been saved. Crew behavior documented. Orders." Maya replied calmly. "No action yet. I want to see how they respond. Let the flight finish." The voice paused. Understood. She removed the earpiece and tucked it back into her bag. Her expression was still soft. But her silence was no longer weakness. It was control. Passengers noticed. Even the other passengers started whispering. "That's her, right?" One man asked his wife. "She's the CEO," the woman whispered back. "Owns the airline." The flight attendant yelled at her earlier. She didn't even argue. That's real power. People began looking at Maya differently now. With respect. With quiet awe. Monica walked down the aisle, and she could feel it. Eyes on her. Cold, judging eyes. Her face was burning with shame. The calm before landing. With 2 hours left in the flight, the sky began to dim outside the windows. Lights in the cabin were lowered. Maya leaned back in her seat, her eyes closed, but her mind stayed sharp. She was thinking not just about Monica, but about everyone who had ever judged her by her appearance, her skin, her silence. But this time, the world would see. She didn't need to scream. The truth would speak for her. Because the storm wasn't over. It was just getting started. The flight was entering its final hour. Outside, the sky was golden with sunset. Inside the plane, everything seemed calm, but it wasn't. Not for Monica, not for the crew, not for anyone who had seen what happened earlier, and especially not for Maya Jackson. She hadn't moved much. Still seated in 1A, still calm, still quiet. But now, her silence felt like thunder before the storm. She opened her phone and typed a short message. "Prepare final step. 30 mins." Somewhere far below, a team of professionals received it. The clock had started ticking. Captain's voice. A few minutes later, the captain's voice came over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We'll begin our descent into New York shortly. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened." The announcement sounded normal. But for the crew, it felt heavy, especially for Monica. Monica's nervous move. Monica couldn't hold it anymore. She walked slowly toward seat 1A, her face pale, her hands trembling slightly. "Miss Jackson," she said quietly. I wanted to say I'm sorry." Maya looked up at her, eyes calm but unreadable. "I misjudged you," Monica continued, voice shaking. "I thought you were in the wrong seat. I shouldn't have called security, or treated you like that. I was wrong." There was silence for a moment. Then Maya replied, softly but clearly. "Tell me, Monica, if I were dressed in designer clothes and had diamonds on my fingers, would you have asked for my ticket?" Monica didn't answer. Maya continued, "You didn't see a woman in first class. You saw a black woman who you thought didn't belong." Monica opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. "I forgive your fear," Maya said, "but I don't excuse your disrespect." Monica lowered her eyes. Maya leaned in slightly. You judged me before you knew me. That's a dangerous habit, Monica. Not just in the sky, but in life. Monica nodded slowly. Yes, Mom. Then Maya added, you'll have a chance to show whether this apology is real very soon. Monica didn't know what that meant, but it scared her. The final message. The seatbelt sign turned on. The plane began to descend. Then something unexpected happened. A chime rang across the cabin. And then a voice played over the intercom. But it wasn't the captain. It was Maya Jackson's voice. Good evening, passengers and crew, the voice said. Everyone looked up, surprised. This is Maya Jackson, CEO of Skyjet Airlines, and the owner of this aircraft. Guests filled the cabin. In business class, economy, even the cockpit. Everyone froze. I want to thank those of you who flew with us today with kindness, patience, and respect, she continued. Her voice was calm, but strong. Some of you knew who I was. Most of you didn't. And that's exactly how I wanted it. Because true service, real respect, should not depend on how rich someone looks. Passengers nodded. Some clapped softly. She continued. Today, I witnessed both the best and the worst of human nature. One of your crew members treated me with suspicion, with rudeness, and called security on me, while others remained silent. Monica closed her eyes. Her shame burned deeper than ever. But silence is not neutral, Maya's voice said. When you see something wrong and say nothing, you become part of the problem. The plane stayed silent now. I want every person on this flight to remember one thing. You never know who you're speaking to, so speak with respect. Always. The announcement ended. People began to whisper, then clap, slowly at first, then louder. Even some of the crew joined in. Landing with truth. The plane landed in New York minutes later. But for many on board, this was more than just another flight. This was a lesson. As the doors opened, a line of black cars waited on the runway. Security, assistants, and Skyjet executives were there. They didn't come for the passengers. They came for Maya Jackson. She stepped off the plane like a queen, not dressed in gold, but with dignity and quiet strength. Before leaving, she turned to Monica one last time. Change doesn't start with a company, she said. It starts with people. Then she walked away. Aftermath. Later that night, the story made headlines. Billionaire CEO exposes in-flight discrimination in her own plane. Clips from the flight were shared online. Maya's speech went viral. People praised her grace, her silence, her power. As for Monica, she was placed under review. Not fired, but forced into deep training and reflection. Because sometimes punishment isn't loud. Sometimes it's learning from your own shame. By morning, the world knew what had happened on Flight 307. Maya Jackson's quiet voice, her message from Seat 1A, was now on every screen. News channels play the audio. Social media exploded with clips. Hashtags started trending. Hashtag Respect in Theskai. Hashtag Maya Jackson. Hashtag Silent Power. Her calm words had become a storm. Online explosion. People from all over the world reacted. She didn't shout. She didn't threaten. She just spoke facts. That's real class. At Truth Seeker 22, if she had screamed, they would have called her angry. Instead, she stayed silent. And now everyone's listening. At Potent Flight, Monica judged a billionaire by her skin. I hope she learns her lesson. At Justice for All, even celebrities joined in. Singer Ella Rose tweeted, Maya Jackson is the queen we didn't know we needed. Actor Sean Davis posted, never judge someone by what they wear. Monica just embarrassed herself in front of the whole world. Monica faces the heat. Back in New York, Monica sat in a Skyjet office. She had barely slept. Her phone was full of messages. Angry ones, mocking ones, some even threatening. She had made a mistake, a public one. Now, the airline had suspended her. She wasn't fired, not yet, but she was under full investigation. HR interviews, media pressure, even staff members avoided her. She felt alone. She opened her phone and saw a new message from the company. Mandatory bias and equality training. 9:00 a.m. tomorrow. Monica sighed deeply. She looked in the mirror. For the first time, she didn't see a uniform. She saw someone whom needed to change. Skyjet responds. At Skyjet headquarters, executives held an emergency meeting. Maya Jackson sat at the head of the table, calm, focused. She didn't ask for anyone to be fired. She didn't shout. She simply said, "Let's not punish, let's correct, let's lead." Her idea. A new program, respect above the clouds. Every flight attendant, every gate agent, every pilot. They would all go through real, deep training, not just rules, but empathy. Kindness is not a bonus, Maya said. It's a requirement in the sky. David's article goes viral. In a quiet cafe, David, the business class passenger, finished writing his article. The woman in seat 1A, a lesson in silent strength. He clicked post. Within hours, it went viral. He described how Maya had been treated, how she had stayed calm, how she had changed the whole flight without shouting once. He ended the article with one powerful line. She didn't raise her voice because the world raised it for her. Flight crew reactions. Not all crew members were angry. In fact, many were inspired. Sarah, the kind attendant who had defended Maya, got promoted. She received a message from Maya's team. "Thank you for standing up quietly. We see you." Jake, the young junior attendant, got invited to speak at training sessions. He told his coworkers, "We don't need to know who someone is to treat them with respect. We just need to remember, they're human." Maya walks the city. Later that week, Maya walked through New York. No bodyguards, no private car, just her and a warm coffee in her hand. Some people recognized her, but she smiled kindly at everyone. No revenge, no anger, just peace. At one point, a young girl with brown skin and curly hair walked up to her. "Are you the lady from the plane?" the girl asked. Maya knelt down. "Yes, sweetie, I am." The girl smiled. "You were brave." Maya looked at her and said softly, "You be brave too, and always remember you belong anywhere you choose to be." The world learns. The story of Flight 307 became a lesson in schools. Teachers played Maya's speech to students. Airlines across the world reviewed their training policies. Even government leaders praised her actions in interviews, not because she was rich, not because she was famous, but because she had shown that real power doesn't scream, it teaches. The sun was rising over New York. 1 week had passed since Flight 307. 1 week since a quiet black woman in plain clothes reminded the world what respect really means. The world had changed. Skyjet had changed. But Monica, the flight attendant who caused it all, was the one who had changed the most. A different Monica. She sat on a bench outside the Skyjet training center. No uniform today. No badge. No title. Just Monica, the woman behind the name. She had spent the past week in bias training, counseling sessions, and long, painful self-reflection. At first, she was angry, defensive, but then she rewatched the flight footage. She heard her own voice yelling at Maya. She saw her own face filled with judgment. And for the first time, she didn't recognize herself. A letter appears. On the last day of her training, Monica found an envelope on her desk. It had no logo, no stamp, just her name, Monica Green. She opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a handwritten letter. "Dear Monica, I've been watching from a distance, not out of anger, but out of hope. We all make mistakes. Some are private. Yours was public. That's harder. But it also means your change can inspire others. You didn't just judge me. You judged a version of yourself that was afraid. I don't hate you. I don't want you gone. I want you better. So if you're ready, let's turn your mistake into your mission. Join me. Maya Jackson. Monica wiped her tears. She hadn't expected forgiveness, but she got something better. A second chance. The conference. 2 weeks later, the Skyjet Respect Summit was held in a large conference hall. Airline staff, CEOs, flight attendants, press, all gathered to witness a shift in culture. The keynote speaker, Monica Green. She walked on stage nervously, wearing a simple navy blue dress. Not a uniform, not a mask, just herself. She spoke with a soft but steady voice. I used to think power was loud, that authority meant control. But on Flight 307, I learned that real strength is quiet. I judged someone by what she wore. I forgot to look at who she was. I embarrassed someone who owned the very plane I served on, and I thought I would be fired. But instead, I was forgiven. She paused, swallowing her emotions. I stand here not as a perfect person, but as a learning one. And I thank Maya Jackson for giving me the gift of reflection instead of revenge. The audience stood. Applause filled the room. And in the front row, Maya smiled, not with pride, but with peace. An unexpected hug. After the speech, Monica walked off stage. Maya stood waiting. They looked at each other silently for a moment. Then Monica stepped forward and hugged her. A real, humble, tearful hug. And Maya hugged her back. A new flight. A new start. Months passed. Flight 307 became a case study in training schools. Monica returned to work, not just as a flight attendant, but as an in-flight dignity trainer. She traveled with Maya to speak at companies, schools, and global aviation events. Maya never once mentioned the money she had. She never showed off her power. But people listened to her voice, because it wasn't her wealth that made her powerful. It was her character.